How you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing today?
Doing awesome.
Good.
Alright, so I had recorded like 1.5 videos yesterday. I still have 3 that I haven't posted in the group. But I woke up this morning just like feeling different. I woke up like sometimes when I wake up like I'm already in the middle of thoughts. It's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes because I wake up in the middle of a thought and it's a really interesting thought too. But I don't know where it started from. Like I'll wake up in a fucking rabbit hole. But this morning, well, I woke up with some fucking wild dreams. I think that one dream I was giving myself a blowjob, and then it shifted, and I was in a room with my ex-wife, and we were making nice. I felt like I had like all the aggression that I trend to feel whenever I think about her. All the aggression and anger was settled, which was nice. Kind of like how would I put it? I don't know, it was very soft. Much softer than usual. But we were discussing life. How things been. How you doing, my friend? You doing alright? Mm-hmm. Catching up on life. And in my dream, she was telling me how her and Desmond spent 3 years in some Donald Trump caravan as nomads. But I woke up this morning thinking about Elon Musk. Well, with Elon in my mind. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to understand how to take full advantage of having a legal entity. Which reminds me, I have to do my beneficial business owner paperwork. So the federal government last year they passed some laws for business owners. It's a mandatory form that we all have to fill out. It's just if you don't do it, if you don't fill out the paperwork, what ends up happening is if I don't have it filled out by January 21st, I think, they start fining about like $800 a day, something fucking insane. But the purpose of it is, I suppose that over the last couple of years, so many people have been transitioning out of the employee class to be the self-employed class. And with all of these online gurus that teach people how to be business owners, which I wouldn't follow any of them. There's like the Andrew Tates Well, you know, that's actually an interesting thing because, and the reason I say that is, like a lot of these gurus like Andrew Tate, and not just him, but there's other guys too. I don't know if you've ever heard of Aaron Doughty, and what the hell's his name? Victor Odo. They're coaches, so they teach people how to coach. And you have those guys like Tim Robbins, right? Is that his name? Tim Robbins. But even when I think back to like Mia Magic, right? Mia Magic was also big into entrepreneurialism. She was a witch coach, yeah, I know, but witchcraft's a big industry. Coaching's a huge industry. And it depends on like what kind of coach you're even looking for too. There's a coach for fucking everything. I was briefly scrolling through Facebook and I saw an ad from Victor and Aaron. Victor Doughty and Aaron are Victor Odo and Aaron Doughty. They've been like pioneers in the spiritual awakening community for as long as I remember. I remember 6 years ago, I found a video by Victor Odo on YouTube, and he was the one who defined a spiritual awakening for me, so that when I watched this video, that actually made me realize, like, yo, there's nothing wrong with me. Holy shit. I was 37 at the time, 37 and a half, when I first saw one of his videos, and he was giving an explanation of what a spiritual awakening is, and it was so bizarre, you know, because it was like he was talking to me. In the video, he was talking to me. I mean, he didn't direct it like, oh, hey, Derek, but he knew all of my my personal life experiences, my internal personal life experiences, my mental experiences, my emotional experiences, and it was just like, how the fuck? Who the fuck is this guy? Where the fuck did he come from? Because this was at a time when I had been learning about the occult for maybe a month or two. And what I started to notice at the time was a lot of synchronicities happening. So what's a synchronicity? Synchronicity is like, if you think of a coincidence, right? Just go through your fucking day. Oh, I was just thinking about that. Someone says something that you were just thinking about. You think about somebody they call. You go to the store and you find something, you know, whatever. You go to the store, find a fucking deck of tarot cards. Oh, I didn't know I needed that. But here it is. Here we are. Meeting a random person, and that person telling you something that answers a question that you've been searching your whole life for the answer for. Meanwhile, this person, you never met this person a day in your fucking life. And they're talking about it like they know everything, they know all about it. What? This happened for me last year too, when I first learned about Bitachon, which is exclusive to the Jewish race. Non-Jews don't talk about Bitachon. They don't know what the fuck Bitachon is. I never even heard the word before. But this woman, she was doing she did a 16-hour. The skeleton's giving the middle finger. This lady, she did like a 16-hour workshop on a book called The Gate of Trust, which I started working on a little bit in the group. But when she started to explain what Bitachon is, I knew exactly what it was. And I'm listening to this Jew. I'm listening to a Jew explain this phenomenon. Describing this phenomenon that I had been experiencing over the previous 6 years, that matter. And I'm thinking to myself, this isn't anything new. I thought this was exclusive to me. Meanwhile, these fucking people, they're talking about it like it's an everyday thing, an everyday occurrence. But something I noticed about with all these, something I've noticed a lot with these coaches, especially business coaches, is no one ever gets into legal entities. And maybe it's because they can't give legal advice. But that's something that I take great pride in, is the fact that I got my legal entity. Which, the mindset behind it was very simple. So when I quit my job, the idea was I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps down the entrepreneurial path. Because there comes a point in life, there came a point in my life where I realized I cannot be an employee for people. You know what I mean? And I know I talk my shit about slavery, people being slaves and shit, but I mean, granted, that's how I felt. As an employee, when I work for somebody, I feel like a slave. I don't like that feeling. Because I don't like to not have control over my life. My life is now predicated on the will of the job. It's a dangerous place to be, especially for people like me who were trying to better understand, better grasp, and or achieve an ideal work-life balance. And it's just my personal experience. Maybe there are people who can prove me wrong, but there is no work-life balance when you're an employee. And the reason I say that with such conviction is the fact that you, as an employee, do not have say over your life. Not anymore. Little things here and there. Yeah, I'm gonna get Taco Bell for dinner tonight. But I'm only getting Taco Bell because it's quick, it's easy, I don't got fucking time. I just got out of my fucking 8, 10, 12, sometimes 14-hour shift. I don't have the motivation, the strength, the will to fucking cook myself dinner. Not to mention the fact that at the same time, you're going to bed when someone else wants you to go to bed. And granted, mind you, I know that the job doesn't tell you when to go to bed, but now you have to readjust your schedule so that you don't wake up late, because you don't want to go to work late and have to listen to your fucking manager, your supervisor bitch at you. You want to sleep in today? Tough shit. You're not feeling well? Tough shit. You're feeling sick? Sorry, but tough shit. Nobody gives a fuck about you. They don't care about your personal story. They don't care about your personal life. They don't want to know what you got going on. You just get the fuck in here and you make money. That's your job. Which then creates a detachment from you and what you do, because now you're holding a resentment against the boss. And you know that it's not their fault. You know it's not their fault. You know it's not personal. And that's a good thing. Because it's easy to get stuck in that. And I have. I feel like I'm being watched. Or maybe it's because I'm recording myself. And you know, but the mindset that hit me, and I give the credit to God, even though God and I weren't on speaking terms at the time. I didn't have a definition of where the voice was coming from. I didn't understand why I was experiencing a lot of the supernatural things that I was experiencing, because I'll go so far as to say that a lot of my experiences post 2020 were supernatural in nature, because of the fact that I had no control over it. How does this thing know how to find me? Why do I constantly get myself in these ideal situations? Especially right when everything seems like it can't get any worse, that's when things just click. And something that's way outside of my control just comes along and makes everything better again. Temporarily, mind you. It's a temporary fix. But that temporary fix, when you when you stack all of those temporary fixes that just come out of nowhere, eventually you have to start asking yourself the question, and which is what I eventually had to do, because someone did pose the question to me, is how many times a coincidence have to happen before it's not a coincidence anymore? Okay, fair question. It's not an easy one, because once we start going through the timeline of our life and counting every single time that one of those coincidences happened, and I'm talking about the ones that are like too good to be true. That didn't just happen. That was just in my head. My mind's playing tricks on me. If you have to tell yourself that your mind's playing tricks on you, that's a sure sign that it's not your mind playing tricks on you. Because for one, it's your mind. Your mind has absolutely nothing to gain from playing tricks on you. It has absolutely nothing. That whole concept of self-sabotage, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Because we're talking about deep-rooted subconscious aspects of yourself that are coming to the surface and intentionally fucking your life up. Why? Well, maybe it's because inside you know that your situation sucks, and there's that part of you that actually has the balls to do something about it, but it's so buried underneath insecurities and just all the bullshit baggage that you're carrying around with you that it has to take extreme measures by self-sabotaging. Now, mind you, over a long enough course of time, if you start paying attention to all those self-sabotages, you start to realize, hey, things started working out as soon as I did that. My life actually started getting better after I sabotaged myself for it to get worse. So no, I've never self-sabotaged. I've sabotaged myself in a positive sense. But that's the thing, is, do you have the patience and do you have the inclination to investigate the experiences of your life over long enough of a timeline that you can see those things? And mind you, that sabotage, it might be 99.998% all shit, but there's still that 0.002% of, oh, thank God that happened. Thank you, Hashem. And I remember it was in 2020, I believe it was August 14th, as a matter of fact, where I was in Maine with my friend Michael, and I was on my bed, and I was writing. It was high as hell, too, which was good. But I was writing about the future and what the hell I'm gonna do. I need to go down the entrepreneurial route, and I needed to succeed. But I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I have absolutely no business experience, in the sense I don't have any first-hand business experience, from the sense I've never been a business owner. Well, that's not entirely true, but it's true enough. I did have a photography business for a little bit, but it was so small and it was so minute that it really I didn't constitute it as a viable business venture because of the fact that I had a full-time job and it was more of a part-time supplemental income type of thing. Now, granted, the only reason it didn't expand to the degrees that I wanted it to was the fact that I was working 40 to 70 hours a week and didn't have the time I wanted to invest. But therein lies the key lesson to learn is that you can't do it with a job. You can't hold a job and create a job. You know what I mean? Because the idea of, and this is just me speaking, this is my own personal opinion. I don't have any kind of business school advice or business school education, nor do I think I would even want any, for the sake that what they're teaching in business school isn't what I'm looking to do. Although, then again, you never know. I do have an MBA book that's under my bed, so I mean, it's not that I don't have resources. I mean, I could look into it a little bit more, but my mission statement, my vision, and again, I thank Hashem, is I'm not interested in money in the conventional sense. And that was a little bit of what I was thinking about this morning, is how can I not have anything? I don't want anything. But at the same time, all of that money goes to the entity itself, and the entity's rich. I'm just a poor guy. I got no money. I got nothing. It's expensive, everything. That I mean, that's a dream. But then again, where's the money come from? Exactly. That's the hard part, is where are we generating money from? And what I had come to the conclusion of in 2018 when I was doing cards for people is, I don't want to work with regular people. Regular people, we can do with fucking regular people. They can't do anything with them. Businesses, when it comes to the consumer and the manufacturer, or whatever you want to call it, the retailer, reseller, all you're doing, you're just manipulating people. You're manipulating people. You're convincing people that they need what you have, when in reality, you know you don't need it. You don't need that thing. Going back to Victor and Aaron, like they're doing a 11-day coaching program where they're going to teach people how to have more confidence in what they're doing. And maybe I should sign up, just this way I can say, fuck it, you know what, let's see what happens if I get more confidence. Let's see if they can help me. But the idea is they want coaches, people that want to be coaches, and in doing so, they're gonna coach you to be a better coach. Now, my argument with that is pretty sound, I'd say, in the sense that there's a saying: you can't love anybody unless you can love yourself. If you can't love yourself, then you can't love nobody else. So if you can't coach yourself, how the fuck are you gonna coach me? You know what I mean? What qualifies you to be a coach when you can't even coach yourself? You know? Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you to tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing when you don't even know what the fuck you should or shouldn't be doing? I remember I had a coach. I worked with a few coaches, especially, even with Victor. He had a coaching business where he had coaches that he would hire out. And I worked with this lady named Cece for about 6 months, and it wasn't cheap. Oh, hell no, it wasn't cheap. Cece was running me about, I want to say Cece was about $250 to $300 a month. Now, we only got 2 calls per month. 2 half-hour calls per month. And that was costing me $250 to $300 a month. It was offensive. Especially when I realized, like, for 20 minutes... I'm just fucking talking, but again, I'm not saying it was without benefit, because it was not. There were perks that came along with it, because what I started to recognize, especially talking to Cece, is that she was at a different conscious level than a lot of people, than anyone else I'd ever talked to up until that point. So really, what am I paying for? I'm paying for the opportunity to talk to somebody who's going to understand, at least listen to what it is that I'm talking about. So what ended up happening was, and the benefit for me was the fact that I was starting to, I was just telling Cece everything that I could in a half hour. Now you try to imagine, nigga, I'm about, we're 25 minutes in this, right? We're 25 minutes into this. So right now, Cece's like, all right, here's your homework assignment. And not that she didn't give me good homework assignments. She did. But I think what most benefited me with Cece was the fact that I had someone to talk to. And I had somebody that I could just blabber out everything and anything that was going on in my life at that particular moment. And she was an ear. Not that she ever gave me... Did she ever give me valuable advice? She did, as a matter of fact. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got from Cece was she had advised that I practice and exercise. And the timing on it was just perfect, because leading up to that point, I had already had that general idea in my mind where, let's say we have something that's troubling us. You get a piece of paper and you get a pen, pencil, whatever the fuck you want. And it's interesting. This wasn't even new. This is something I've been doing, except for the execution of it. Her version of the execution was just slightly altered to what I had already been doing for the previous 2 years. But it was enough for me to go, okay, I love this. This is the best. So basically what you do is you ask yourself a question. What's troubling me? What's holding me back? What's my big issue today? And you write that question out with your right hand. And then once you write the question out with your right hand, then you switch up on yourself and you answer the question with your left hand. And so you take the pen and then you start writing out the response to that question. And the idea behind it, and it made so much sense. It does make sense. And I love explaining this to people, because when you explain it to people, they're like, oh shit, that does make sense. So the way it works is, we as a society are predominantly trained to be left-brained, as in our left brain is dominant over our right brain. Left brain would be the abstract, would be the logical brain. So they say. That's where all of our insecurities actually live. And it's all because we all write with our right hand. So what happens is, when you start answering the question with your left hand, you can bypass all of the subconscious blocks and insecurities that would affect you if you were writing out your response with your right hand. And mine's gonna be a little bit sloppy. It's gonna be very awkward. But over time you can develop proficiency with your left hand. And my brother can write with his left hand. He wasn't, when he was a kid, he wasn't pushed to use his right hand over his left. So he's naturally ambidextrous. My ambidextria is self-taught. So I went 37 years without being able to write with my left hand. Now, it's something I wanted to do ever since I was a kid. I remember when I was 15 is when I first had the idea. Well, it's the first time I remember having the idea to teach myself to write with my left hand, and it was so challenging at the time that I was like, "Fuck this." I used one of Christopher's. He was like in like first grade at the time, but he had one like a placemat that had all the alphabets on it, and what I tried to do was trace the alphabet with my left hand, and I gave up after the second letter. I'm like, this fucking sucks. I can't do this shit. But when we circle back around 30 years later, or 20 years later rather, it's dawning on me that it would be in my best interest to start using my left hand like I would use my right hand. Now, I don't go so far as to jerk off with my left hand. I have. I mean, it's not impossible, and there's reason for it. It's not just to fucking do it. There's a training aspect to it, right? So if we're familiar with the concept of neuroplasticity, which means that you can train your brain to, you can awaken atrophied aspects of your brain by doing things that you wouldn't normally do. So for instance, some people say, brush your teeth with your left hand, which is a pain in the ass. It's a fucking huge pain in the ass. Jerking off with my left hand is a huge fucking pain in the ass. It's not impossible. It's just like you got to put extra effort into it because the dexterity isn't there. So essentially what you need to do is start to build up that dexterity, which comes over time. I mean, if I write with my left hand, which I can now, I have a whole book that I wrote with my left hand. And what I found is, though it's not perfect, my left hand writing can, depending on how much time I take with it, my left hand can be more precise than my right hand, because my right hand I'm just fucking writing. I'm so used to it. It's just like automatic. But with this one, I have to put a little extra more thought into holding my arm straight, allowing the fluidity of the wrist to take control. There's more thought that you have to put into it. But like I said, practicing what Cece had thrown at me by asking myself a question with my right hand and then answering it with my left hand, I started to notice some really interesting results, because what ends up happening is I'll write and it's not me writing. It's a whole separate side of me that's answering the question, and it's like, whoa, holy shit. And even now, like even when I write now with my left hand, it's like a different part of me comes online because of the fact that I am using that hand. Now, what's interesting about it, another thing that's interesting about it, is when I write, I get deep. So there's an emotional aspect, there's a mental aspect. So while using that hand, we're firing those neurons, which normally wouldn't get used. And that's why I say atrophied, because the range of motion that I'm using, it requires very specific neurons to fire on that side of my brain, right? Because your left side is controlled by your right side is controlled by the left. So as I'm writing, yeah, we're firing those neurons, we're forming new neural pathways, but at the same time, we have that the limbic system kicking in, because there is that emotional aspect. So now we have the motor function along with the chemical function, which is then creating a two-dimensional experience for your brain that wouldn't normally be doing the things that it's doing. Now, the idea that was coming to me was, because of the fact that I'm doing cards, because of the fact I do astrology, because of the fact that I do magic, it requires breaking free of the shackles of the logical mind, because there are illogical aspects to these concepts that you have to be able to rationalize. It's called super rationalization. When you have to rationalize the illogical, which is not impossible. It's challenging because your logical mind, your logical brain is telling you that's not real. You can't do that. It just doesn't make sense. And that's where these insecurities, we'll call them, come from. It's not that you're insecure. It's just that you haven't been trained properly to think the right way. Because what you should be thinking is, of course I could do this. It's just going to take a little extra time. We hit these walls. We hit these invisible walls about this thing that we're trying to achieve. And because nobody else did it, or maybe people don't agree with what we're thinking or what we're doing, we automatically go, yeah, you know what? They're right. They're right. I can't do this shit. So for instance, right, in the group, I was just working on this book before I came out. I was writing a post for the Communist Manifesto, right? So what I'm doing is I'm going to literally paragraph by paragraph. I'm writing out the paragraph. I'm not copying and pasting. That's too easy. So what I'm doing is I'm actually typing out the paragraph itself, which is one, allowing my mind to build a mental profile of what the hell is even being talked about, like kind of like a mental model. Did I say that? Like a mental model, and make my own associations with the concepts and ideas that are being thrown out. So I'm really proud of this. I'm really proud of this idea that came to me while I was writing, and what Marx is talking about in this last portion was the evolution of manufacturing from the manufacturing revolution to the industrial revolution, and how the bourgeoisie, the manufacturing bourgeoisie, had evolved into the industrial bourgeoisie. But while that's happening at the exact same time, we're talking about how navigation, communication, commerce, all of that is also evolving at the same time. So and then these are all things that I don't know about. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm very ignorant. I'm uneducated. So the other day, I'm just bouncing. The other day, the portion we were going through, and I forget exactly what he was talking about. I think he was talking about the evolution from the old feudal classes into the manufacturing classes. And what got to me was, like, I don't know this stuff. I don't know anything about finance. I don't know anything about industry. I don't know anything about fucking nothing. And to my primitive brain, I started beating myself up, because I started to flash back to my life and how I spent, like, one of my biggest problems, especially as an employee in the graphic industry. And yeah, I mean, 13 years in the graphic industry, I started at the fucking very bottom, and I literally got as high as I can go without actually being the business owner. I started off as a graphic inventory manager, a physical graphic inventory manager, and then at the end of my career, I was the fucking not the CEO, the COO. I was the chief operations manager, which is a big fucking deal, especially for someone like me, because I didn't finish college. I went to college for I went to a 2-year college for 5 years, but never actually finished it. You know, so I dropped out of college so I can take that first job as the graphic inventory manager. And technically that wasn't really my title. I had to self-title myself, because in the company that I worked for, your title determined what status of employee you were. You were either part of the corporate class, or you're a part of the manufacturer class. Okay? And if you had manager in your title, then you were considered to be a salaried employee. The salary class and the hourly class, we'll call it like that. But in reality, what was I doing? I was the logistics manager. I was the inventory logistics manager. So my role at the company was we were an exhibit house that specialized in pharmaceutical trade shows. So we had a huge, there was about like 180 employees when I first started there. And out in the carpentry shop, that's where they would literally build the booths for these trade shows worldwide. We had a big warehouse where we stored everything. We had the warehouse, we built our own crates in which to store the booths, because they all would break down. Everything would break down into like pieces of a puzzle, kind of like a Lego set almost, but more complex. So we had the warehouse where they stored everything. We had the carpentry shop where they would build the crates, not just build the crates, but they would also build the booths themselves. Then we had the graphic department that I was in, and the graphic department was then divided up into the design, and then the pre-press, and then the press department. So we had the designers in the pre-press area, and technically they didn't design anything. The clients, the pharmaceutical companies, they would have designers. They would have their own design teams that would put the graphics together for the booths. Our designers would just kind of like take the pieces of the designs and then put it all together. Once the files were ready, they would pass it off to the production team, which is where I was at. Well, technically, we had three. We had the physical inventory, we had the production guys, and then we had the pre-press. I was kind of like a floater, where sometimes I would do some of the design work, not actual design, but the file prep. There we go. Printing, the press, which is basically, we were just making big ass stickers. We just made big ass stickers that you put on either plexiglass or some kind of other substrate that would then hang in the booth, so that when the booth was set up at the show, on the show floor, you had this big, beautiful thing going on. I wasn't a big fan of the work. I wasn't a big fan of who we were working for, because I'm very much against pharmaceutical companies. Especially when you got to read, like part of my responsibility was proofing these graphics and all of the fine print. You're reading SSRI reuptake inhibitors. Serotonin reuptake inhibitors. You're reading the fucking fine print on these things, and you find out it causes fucking suicidal thoughts. What are you, out of your fucking mind? But then there was the shipping department, there was the sales department, there was meetings and events, there was the executives, there was a 3D design, 2D design. We used to do a lot of cool shit. There was a lot of really cool high-tech shit. Like we had this one booth, we had this one display. I don't know how the fuck they put it together. It was dope. So you put these a headband on, right? And there's all these little diodes that connect to your forehead, your temples and shit. And you have two people who sit at opposite ends of a really long table. And the table has a track in the center. And then on the track, it's like a metal track. And then on the track is a metal ball. So the idea, I did use it once. It was cool. I lost. It's a game. So the two people, the idea is to clear your mind of all thoughts. And whoever has the less static going on in their brain at the time, the ball will go towards the other person. So it was a competition to see who would be able to get the ball to the other end. So there's something like that. That was fucking dope. But my role there was, once the graphics came back from the shows, there was a big storage area. So I had about 20,000 graphics physical graphics that I had to keep a log of. Now, mind you, I had everything organized. Everything was organized beautifully. I'm very meticulous with my inventory management. That's like one of my specialties. But then once I got promoted, I got reassigned to run the large format printers, which I had been trained on, but what we're doing with the printers is more than just opening a file and hitting print. Because of the nature of the industry, we got to make sure that the colors print. So let's take Forest Industries, right? Forest Pharmaceuticals. We worked with them for years. I had hundreds of graphics that belonged to that company. Every single one of those graphics had the Forest Pharmaceuticals logo. That Forest Pharmaceuticals logo had to be a very specific color. But that was the issue with printing, is that in order to achieve color correction to that degree, you have to be able to understand the breakdown of the CMYK process. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But because we're using large format printers, CMYK isn't going to cut it. So the printers that we had were 6-color printers, not 4-color printers. It was cyan, yellow, magenta, and black, plus, in addition, light cyan and light magenta, because those two extra colors, they would allow us to achieve a photorealistic quality to large format prints that a 4-color process wouldn't be possible. Plus, it would open up the color gamut. So the color gamut is basically just the range of colors that you can print. And then once we get into color theory is a little fucked up because there's 2 types of color theory. There's printed color and then there's digital color. So digital color, you have a wider color gamut, and the color that you see on the screen isn't necessarily going to be the color that you print out. So there was one color in particular, 021 orange. I couldn't stand 021 orange. It was the most beautiful color of orange that you could ever lay your eyes on. Like it almost looked like, it almost glowed. It was just so fucking divine. So some companies, they wanted their graphics to be printed. They wanted big swatches of 021 orange on their prints. The problem is, you can't print 021 orange. Later on in my career, about 10 years later, when I was running the vehicle wrap shop, the owner and I, we went shopping. We went shopping for new printers, and we got a 10 color printers, which had cyan. We had the 4 basic ones. See them, okay, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But then it also had light magenta, light cyan, green, orange, gray, I think blue. But now here's the thing though. So if you go to any kind of printed material, right? So if you go to the store, when next time you're in the store, look at any of the printed material that you have. Those colors don't exist. Your pack of cigarettes, right? Got a pack of cigarettes. I'm just gonna say Newport, right? You got a pack of fucking green Newports or Newport Reds, whatever. If you look at that box, you see green, you see red, but that color isn't actually there. It's an optical illusion. So if you took like a fucking magnifying glass, or what's called a loupe is like a it's basically a color. It's like a magnifying glass, but specifically for printing. If you zoom in on that print, if you take the magnifying glass and look at that print, you look at that swatch of green. There is not a fucking speck of green ink. What you'll see is a fuck ton of little tiny dots, lots of little dots that are made up of those 4 primary colors. 6 if you got light cyan, light magenta. So let's just say you got a 4-color printer. You print out a swatch of green. It looks green. I show it to you like that's green. It's not green. So we take our loupe and we look at it, and what you'll see is little dots of cyan, magenta. Cyan's like a light blue. Magenta is almost like a pink, like a red pink. Yellow is yellow, and then black is black. But you'll see those dots placed on the printer. And mind you, they're minuscule. That's why you need a magnifying glass to even see them. But when you look at the print itself, it's green. Because the combination, the sequence in which the printer lays out those ink blotches, those little ink dots, when you stand back from it, it looks green. You'll fucking swear, you'll put all your money on it. Yo, baby girl, I'll bet you all the money in your bank account that green ain't there. And you're gonna say, no, I'm telling you, I'm looking at the green. I can see the fucking thing. All right, come on, let's get the loop out. And when you look in, no green. It's amazing. Now, one of the things I loved most about that industry was the fact that I had my hands on these graphics. I had my hands on the prints. Have you ever walked by a store? I mean, you're in the retail industry, so you're familiar with like store displays. So you see the magic that takes place behind the scenes, right? So we used to do. There was one joint that we used to work at all the time up in Manhattan. It was a speaker company, Card & Hardman. They make expensive ass fucking audio equipment. I think Jaguars, the cars, Jaguar, they have Harman Kardon speakers in there. Like Harman Kardon, you want quality, you're going to fucking Harman Kardon. Those motherfuckers, those niggas, they had fucking headphones, $2,000. $2,000 fucking headphones. Mind you, it's also for music production, shit like that, but we used to go to the flag store on Madison Ave, and we would work overnight and do all the in-store displays on the windows, the fucking murals on the walls. It was really cool shit. But if you ever wondered, I always like the idea because it's like I always walk by those stores. You're like, oh, man, when do those things go up? Who does all this work? I do. Me. And I just love the idea that my hands are touching something that's going to influence a person, and they'll never know. They'll never know that my fingerprint is on it. Like another cool thing that I used to be into. I wish I could get back into it. Is video games. I love video games. I fucking love video games. 25 years of my life I spent playing video games. It's the most experience I have with anything. Well, except for Torah now. I think I would say that my experience, my hours clocked in. No, that's not true. I definitely have way more video game hours clocked in than I do Torah hours clocked in. But whatever. But the thing I love about video games so much is like that it's a marriage between a book and a movie. I love books and I love movies. But then with the video game, you have the interactive aspect to it as well. So there's this multi-dimensional experience that's taking place in this universe that you can travel around, interact with things, touch things, and it doesn't exist anywhere. It's not there. It's nowhere. Like we can put on The Witcher. You can watch me play The Witcher 3, which is a game I want to get back to. I do plan on that. I have to finish that game. I have to. I owe it to Geralt. But we can sit down, you can watch me play The Witcher for hours and walk around this fucking world, but that world doesn't exist anywhere. The whole thing is fucking digital, which is fucking fascinating to me, which is why I always wanted to get into the video game industry. And that in computer software engineering, because video games, that's what it is. It's just a huge piece of software. And it's just a matter of the design elements versus the writing elements versus the coding elements. And when it all comes together, it comes together in this beautiful fucking symphony of what the fuck? How did you do that? Now, mind you, most video games are made with like multiple huge teams, but I have played some. I played some really cool ones that are just made by one dude. There was this one game. It's like very basic, very simple. Like the idea, the gameplay itself is very simple, the design was itself very basic, but the achievement of it is that it was a one-man team. He wrote the whole fucking story, he encoded the whole fucking game, and he wrote the music for it as well. I can appreciate the fuck out of that. Because that's not an easy feat, and God only knows how fucking long it took him to pull that off. But then again, it comes back to your audience. Like, who are you marketing to? You know, see, like the other day I was having this idea about what industry are you in? Self-empowerment. Self-empowerment through self-exploration. With God. Through Torah. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. What do you do? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Of course you know what you do. Am I right? I study Torah. I take what I learn from Torah and then I study other works. Oh, you're a scholar. Yes. You're a bum. Yes, and I live with my moms. And I don't pay rent. And I don't collect any money. But I rely on God for everything. Because I know that God's not going to let me starve. Which is something that only I can understand, because it's one of those things that you have to experience it in order to understand it. And if you don't experience it, then you can't understand it. Because it's magical. I'm a high priest. I'm a rabbi. What industry are you in? The religious industry. Open source religion. Open source mysticism. The resurrection of the kingdom of Israel. World building. I'm trying to build a breakaway society for the future. So that once all the systems that we have today fail, I'll be good. And then everybody will need me. Or they won't. Future building. I asked God this too. It's like, what industry can we say that we're in? We're building an industry. There you go. What industry are you in? The industry building industry. I'm in the monopoly industry. I'm trying to develop the first legal monopoly outside of the government. I'm trying to build a government using a legal entity. Just using a legal entity in my mind. Because when one of the things I love about a legal entity is that there's really no rules about what you can do with it. Entrepreneurialism, and that's what I love about entrepreneurialism so much, is that there are no rules that you have to follow. There's no guidelines. There's no, you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, you can't, that's the thing. I can't say, well, you can't do anything illegal with it, but you can. Because there's legal entities out there who specialize in killing people. I don't know what they're called now, but remember Blackwater, the mercenary group? That's a company that literally hires out mercenaries. I can't say you can't sell drugs. Look at all the pharmaceutical companies. That's medicine. Those are drugs. They're drugs. Government-sponsored drugs. Now they ain't illegal street narcotics, but they're legal government-sanctioned narcotics. Big difference. Not really. Because what we know today is that what's an illegal street narcotic in one state is medical medicine in another state. Heroin started out as a medicine. So really the rules of engagement just really depend on where you're standing at the time. Whoa, what the hell was that? What? Hello. Marijuana. What the hell? Just follow the smell. Oh, where'd it go? I lost the trail. Come on. I just saw someone walk by too. I don't know, I just got a big waft of fucking pot. I'd be so happy if it... Oh man, they're all the way down there. Them. Oh, it's alright. So my idea is like not popular at all. I want to build an industry that doesn't require money. That's impossible. I know. That's why it's got to be done. So that people can see that it can be done. So what are you going to use? I'm going to follow the advice of fucking my ancestor, King Solomon. Wisdom and discernment. Wisdom and understanding. My intention is to be the greatest mind ever. People look at Elon Musk. And hey, listen. I don't look at the guy as competition. I don't have competition. That's a principle of his that I respect. Because he has... I was watching like this little interview with him. I think it was like Diana Ross, or not Diana Ross. But Diana something, I don't know. But he was talking about Tesla patents. How none of their patents are actually patented. They're all open source patents. And I love that idea. I love open source. Like when in 2018, when I realized like I had to read Torah, I need to learn how to read Hebrew, and I need to learn how to read Torah so I could see what's in that book for myself. That's a lot of where that's where this all came from. I've never shifted gears on that at all, and especially given now, it's like right now is the product of everything I started 6 years ago, which is perfect, but something that I realized back then, and I don't know where this thought came from, but I just knew. Jews don't have, Jews, they don't have a monopoly on Torah. They don't have a monopoly on Hebrew. They use it. As a matter of fact, the Jews of today, the other one Jews, the Orthodoxy, they went down a different evolutionary path than the Jews that followed Jesus. Christianity wasn't originally a religion. It was originally designed, it was really set up as a movement to it was a breakaway. Think of it like a schism within the Jewish community. Because the leaders at the time, the Pharisees, they were doing things against God's law. They were actually breaking the law. Meanwhile, they were the ones pushing their own law, the laws that they decided. I'm telling you how it is. And that's where the big problem was. See, back in Jesus' day, Torah's been around thousands and thousands, 3,337 years to be precise. That's when Moses received Torah from God on Sinai. Those weren't Jews. I mean, they were and they weren't. So a good example, right? Islam. Ask any Muslim. Ask Teresa. She better be able to. She better know the answer to this one. But if you ask a Muslim, what's older, the Quran or Islam? Every educated Muslim will tell you that that Islam has been there since the beginning. The Quran just opened it up, just opened our awareness to it. Just like Torah. Torah predates Moses. It predates the giving of Torah on Sinai. It's always been there. It's just that nobody was paying attention to it. And the same with Christianity. Same with Christianity to a degree. Jesus wasn't the first Christ. Jesus was like, I don't know, Hashem, how many Christs were there before Jesus? David was a Christ. King David was a Christ. Before King David, I would have to say that before King David, the next Christ would have been Moses. Before Moses was Joseph. Before Joseph was Jacob, Isaac, and obviously Abraham. And we could even go so far as to say that Noah was a fucking Christ. And before Noah, there was Adam. Adam was the first Christ. And I mean, if we really want to go hard, we could say that Seth was the second Christ. So Seth was Adam's third son. So first there was Cain and Abel. And then after Cain had killed Abel, then Adam and Eve, they had a third son named Seth. And then Seth was the father of Enosh. Enosh was the father of Canaan. Canaan was the father of Jared. Jared was the father of Mahalalel. Mahalalel was the father of Enoch. Enoch was the father of Methuselah. Methuselah was the father of Lamech. Lamech was the father of Noah. But then Noah was the father of Shem. Shem was the father of Shelah. Shelah was the father of... Oh, I'm sorry. No. Noah was the father of Shem. He actually had three sons. He had Shem, Japheth, and Ham. Ham had a son named Canaan, who was the father of the nation of Canaan, which is what God gave to the Israelites. But Shem had a son named Arpachshad. Arpachshad had a son named Shelah. Shelah had a son named Eber. Eber was the father of Peleg. Peleg was the father of Reu. Reu was the father of Nohar. Nohar was the father of Terah. Terah was the father of Abraham. Abraham was later. So Abram and Abraham, they're the same guy. It's just that when God changed Abram's name to Abraham, it was almost like an evolution of his soul. So by the time Abraham was like fucking 100 years old when he had his name changed. I mean, I think he was 99 because that's when he and Sarah had Isaac. They were elderly. She was in her 80s or 90s. In the Bible, it even says, she even questions God. She goes, "What are you talking about? I'm going to have a baby." I'm like, "I'm a fucking old lady. I stopped having my period fucking an age ago." And God says to her, he goes, "What the fuck? You think anything's impossible for me? The fuck are you laughing at?" And Sarah, she goes, "I didn't laugh." "Yeah, you did. I heard you." So we can rationalize that, by the way. We can rationalize the fact that Sarah had an elderly child, was an elderly woman when she had Isaac, by simply saying that she had one egg that she didn't realize that she didn't pass. So women have a set amount of eggs, right? So women have a set amount of eggs in their ovaries, and you only have a limited number of ovulations before you run out of eggs and you can't have any more kids, right? The opportunity to have a kid goes away. So the way that we can look at it, the way that we can rationalize it, listen, I don't know the science. I know that nothing's impossible, though. Are you telling me that it's impossible? Are you telling me it's impossible because you have the experience, or no? What's the lifespan on an egg? How long can an egg last in a human body before it expires, before it goes bad. Do eggs go bad? I don't know. I know I can fucking blast out fucking shots all day long up until I'm fucking 1,000 years old, and nigga, we'll still be having a kid. So, if we want to get scientific with it, we know human biology better than we did back then. That was about 4,000 years ago. So one of the eggs must have gotten stuck. Or she was only born with one egg. Because she couldn't have kids. Why couldn't she have kids? I have no idea. I have no idea. We didn't get into the science of it. The biology field wasn't as advanced as it is today. All we know is that an egg was sitting in her ovary and it sat there for fucking 40 or 80 years of her life. It's not impossible. I refuse to believe that it's impossible. Some genetic mutation happened. So Isaac was a special kid from that regards. He was the prophesized child. Just like Abraham. Abraham was a prophesized child too. And that's the thing is like, what we find as we go through Torah is that like a lot of these guys, these are all like the chosen ones in the sense, or they were the chosen ones because they were the foretold prophesied child. Like even Joseph's mother, Jacob and Joseph's mother Rachel, they were having lots of sex. They had the best sex. But that's why God waited. That's why God gave them some time. That's why God gave them a lot of time, because all the shit that Jacob had to go through, all the shit that Jacob and Rachel had to go through before they could be together, God made sure that they had some time to enjoy each other the way that a man and woman should enjoy each other. And I'm glad for him. I'm glad for him. But eventually she had Joseph. And then they had Benjamin. And when she had Benjamin, she died giving birth to Benjamin. But now it's through the story of Joseph that we learn the concept of retrocausality. And what's interesting about retrocausality is if we can see it in the Bible, we can see it in our own lives. Because I was already familiar with the concept of retrocausality long before I fucking even read the Bible. So once I read the Bible and started to see my personal experiences being reflected back at me, it went, what the fuck? Not to mention the fact that Joseph was the most potent prophet prior to Moses. We don't actually know the depths of God's relationship with Joseph, but we do know that Joseph and God, they were like this. Joseph was the one who was sold by his brothers into slavery. And it was about like 12 years. 12 years later, while he was the COO of Egypt, essentially. And there was a great famine, but Joseph had insight. God revealed all of these things to Joseph of what was going to happen and how to reconcile Egypt's resource management so that they could prepare for this coming famine, which would eventually lead his brothers, who didn't live too far away, to come to Egypt seeking assistance from the state. Because during the time of the famine, Egypt was the only state that was prepared. So everybody was coming to Egypt to gain food because Joseph had did that proficient of a job. So from the time he was given the position, and the reason he was given the position in the first place was because Pharaoh had a dream that couldn't be interpreted. So throughout all the king's court, not one of his magicians or diviners or fortune tellers, anyone could tell him what this dream meant. But Joseph had a small, very tiny reputation while he was in prison. And someone had suggested, hey, there's a Hebrew slave that's in the prison who foretold to me that you are going to come and free me from prison. You might want to talk to this guy. So that's when they brought Joseph into the scene. And Joseph had been doing this kind of work since he was a kid. But what sealed the deal for me about Joseph's potency and the truth behind the quote story of Joseph was the fact that Joseph could interpret his own dreams, which by today's standards is a gift that few people actually have attained. I only know one person that's living today that can actually interpret their own dreams. And it's not that I could see the future from it, but I can divine information from it to gain access to what I need to see. So my dreams last night, yeah, I need a blowjob really bad. But so badly that I dream about giving myself one. But more importantly, let's go to the April thing, where in my dream I was able to have like a tender, soft conversation with this woman. What that tells me is that those wounds I've been trying to heal for all these years, we did it. We're ready to move the fuck on. And I can feel it too. Because I was doing some work today. One of the projects I'm working on is one of the commandments of Torah is, so mind you. So most people they're familiar with the Ten Commandments. That's this much. That's this much of it. So the Ten Commandments, that's all right. If you can't handle the Ten Commandments, then you're not gonna be able to handle everything else that comes afterwards, because the Ten Commandments just lay the foundation, and then once we get out of the Ten Commandments, then it's all about nation building. It's the laws, rules, and commandments to run an effective utopia, essentially. Now, mind you, back then we're talking about an agrarian society, but as I am working through Torah now, I'm starting to what I'm learning how to do is to equate those laws, equate those rules into a modern perspective. How do we interpret it? So basically when it comes to the Old Testament, you want to take it literal. You want to take the whole thing literal. Now, other one Jews, I don't agree with this. They say that the New Testament, the Torah doesn't have a sequel. Granted, the reason that the other one Jews, that they don't approve of Jesus, they don't believe in Jesus, is because Jesus was against them. The fathers of the modern Jewish nation, the fathers of the Orthodoxy, were the people that Jesus was against, because they were the ones who were making up their own fucking rules. They were making up their own interpretations and saying, this is the way. And that's how they were running the Israelites at the time. And during that time, that's when Rome had fucking conquered them. It was a shit show. It was an absolute shit show. And that was God punishing them. And even the Jews today, redemption, we're following all the rules, we're doing this, we're doing that. You're not. That's why nothing is working out for you. That's why there's war with the fucking Iran. That's why the state of Israel isn't even, that's not real. The state of Israel doesn't exist. I can think of at least one Jew who would say that I'm not a Jew because I said that. No. It's all in the fucking book. God was very clear. When I kick your ass out, you're out. If you want to come back in, you're going to have to apologize. And Jews will not apologize. That's a big thing of theirs. We will not apologize for being Jews. I'm sorry, Hashem. I'm sorry for everybody. I apologize for them. Because the rules are very clear. Follow the rules to a T, or get the fuck out. Like there's certain rules, like this isn't like it's a fucking great example. So there's a practice where, let's say you and I were married, right? So you and I are married, we don't have a kid, and then I die. You're still a part of the family. If my brother's not married, he has to marry you and have a kid with you. when he has a kid with you, well, I don't know. That's a good question. Hashem, that's actually a good question. Because what we're talking about, we might be a bad example. And the reason that we're a bad example is because we have two fathers. So technically, I'm actually positive that it wouldn't work. Because it's a Y chromosome. Christopher and I, we don't share a Y chromosome. But let's say we did, okay? So let's say Christopher was actually Frank's son, like me. Christopher was Frank's second son, right? You and I are married, we didn't have any kids. So what ends up happening is Christopher has to marry you and have a child. At least one. That child counts as mine. So even though he's the biological father, that child's going to be counted as Derek's son. It's like your property. Yeah, exactly. Your wife. That's it. That's how Israelite society is. Was back then. And it still is. But now here's the thing. It's like, it's an option. He doesn't have to do it. He's allowed to back out. And those are in the rules. Those are in the rules. In that, if he chooses, he does not have to marry you. God doesn't force him to do it, but technically it's the right thing to do so that your brother's legacy doesn't get wiped out because he died without kids. Does that make sense? Because the main thing about the Israelite philosophy, the Israelite practice, the Torah, is legacy building. You are building a legacy. You're not just living for yourself, you're living for the future. Because the Israelites are the master race. That's the idea. That's literally the idea behind it. We were chosen to be the master race because we're the keepers of the rules. We play by the book so that we succeed. We succeed so that other people go, yo, what the fuck are these guys doing? Whoa, come on over. We'll teach you. Here's what you're doing wrong. Here's how you could be doing it. Jews make excellent advisors. But now, I mean, if we start getting into Mashiach is the leader of the New World Order. That's a whole other story. That's a whole can of worms. But in the Orthodoxy, that practice of inheriting the wife, that's illegal. It's forbidden to practice that. Which then essentially says, God, fuck you. That's what they're doing. They're telling God, well, I'll follow this rule, I'll follow that rule, but we're not going to follow that one. You're cherry picking. When if we read the book says you gotta do everything. You gotta follow this motherfucker to a T. You study these fucking rules when you go to sleep. You study them when you wake up. You study them when you're out of the house. You study them when you're in the house. You write them down on your fucking doorposts. You write this shit down on your forehead. You write it down on your arms. You write it everywhere. These are the fucking rules. And that's it. Do not sway left. Do not sway right. The Jews of today, the Orthodoxy, the whole Orthodoxy is predicated on the fact that Jewish people, that some sects of the Jews steer to the left or the right. Technically, the Jews that followed Jesus, they were on the right. They were in the right, rather. They were rebuilding the nation the way that it was supposed to be. See, one of the things about like all of the rules and the laws and the commandments, especially back then, is that the environment wasn't nurturing to the law. So the people themselves couldn't actually practice it the way in which it was designed. There was a small period, probably from around 150 BC to about 45 BC, where there was a brief golden age of Israel, where we were independent, we had a king, we had a dynasty of kings, and everything was going fucking smooth. But then enters the Pharisees, the guys that were around with Jesus, and the Sadducees. So there were two schools. There was the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Sadducees, they followed the law to the fucking letter. To the letter. The Pharisees, on the other hand, this is like the Democrats and the Republicans of ancient Israel. The two-party system. The last line of kings, the last king of Israel was part of the Hasmonean dynasty. And this was right before Rome conquered. There was two brothers. One brother was aligned with the Sadducees, and then the other brother, who was the king, was aligned with the Pharisees. Now the Pharisees were, it's like, right? Republicans look at the Constitution as set in stone, so to speak. Where the Democrats, I remember Obama saying this, that the Constitution is a living document that is meant to evolve and grow over time. And he's not wrong. It's not wrong. It does need to be some reinterpretations about what the fuck is going on in that thing. A whole lot of stuff needs to be recalculated and reevaluated because we're living in a completely different fucking age than we did before. It's gonna take a lot more than Trump to fix the problem. And if the American people want to hold on to the Constitution, if they want to move back to the Constitution instead of whatever the fuck is this shit is, a democracy. It's not a fucking democracy. Democracy doesn't work. Democracy only works when you win. You know that? If your party doesn't win, the democracy didn't work. Just like 5 days ago, my mom and her husband, they're planning on packing their bags and shipping out of fucking the United States. If Trump didn't win. But he wins. Hey, well now it's time for everybody to get along. Hey, I don't disagree. It's just like, all right, hypocrite. Democracy worked. Yeah, democracy always works when you're on the winning side. That's the way it works. God. And by the way, the election results, they were already decided. God wrote that script weeks ago. Trump won on once the fast of Yom Kippur ended. That's when this next year was set in stone. Which is actually an important point because moving forward for the next year, don't get mad at nothing. Don't get upset about anything because everything that's gonna happen has already been prepared and planned to happen. And I mean that from a macro level to the micro level. Your life has already been plotted out for you. Your only job is just to fucking hold on for the ride. The more control I try to have over my life, the less control it feels like I have. Exactly. That's why. You don't decide how your life's gonna go. That's why it's like when my mother was telling me, like, if Trump doesn't win, we're gonna move and we're gonna sell the house. I just hope that you have a plan B. Well, first off, for one, Mom, the house ain't selling tomorrow. I'll put it like that. Two, I don't know if anyone ever noticed. I don't know if anyone was paying attention, but I'm a Jew. I have God. I'm good no matter what. I'm good with Trump. I'm good with Harris. I'm good if fucking the United States government fucking liquidates tomorrow. I'm good. Nobody. If you're worried about me, yo, you gotta get nigga, you better get your priorities straight. Cause I'm good. I ain't worried about me. If I'm not worried about me, then why the fuck are you worried about me? I'm not worried about me. I'm as worried about you as I am worried about me. And I'm not worried about you. I got my shit. I'm good. I'm good. My whole year's already planned out. My year's good. Today's the 6th day. We're all right, 6:50. In 20 minutes, I'm sorry, in 17 minutes. In 17 minutes, the calendar's going to click over, and we're going to be on the calendar day of the 7th day of the 8th month of Cheshvan in the year 5785 from creation of Adam and Eve, right? On the 18th day of Elul, the 12th month, on the 18th day of the 12th month, I'm going to be working on the first day of the 12 days of reflection. I have my fucking year planned. I'm good. I'm fucking good. In 2, 4, in about 6 weeks, I'm going to be working through the next round of fucking Hanukkah. I'm good. I am so fucking good. That's why I'm doing what I can in this group. That's why I'm doing this stuff. I don't have to worry about nothing no more. I don't need money. I don't need love. I have all the love that I need for myself. I don't need food. It's there if I need it. Everything I need is there when I need it. I just had 2 cigarettes with my buddy Marco. When we walk back, if Marco's outside, I'm gonna grab another cigarette just for the fuck of it. Because he doesn't care. Okay, fine. I'll smoke your cigarettes. Shit. Is there anything I could do for you to make up for all the cigarettes I'm taking? If you think of anything that you want me to do, if you need like a favor or anything, just let me know. There you go. This way, because I feel like, unless you just like the conversation, unless you're cool with just the conversation, then I don't give a fuck. Because that's what I do. It's like if I take a cigarette from the guy, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to have a conversation with him. I'm not going to. I don't normally just take him and go, but I do. Now, yeah. So Jesus was against all those guys. Jesus was against the Sadducees. He was against the Pharisees. And that's another thing. A big thing with Jesus, too, is like everybody was jealous. Nobody wants to be less special than anybody else. Jesus had access to information. He had access to abilities that other people didn't have. And mind you, we're also 2,000 years ago. A lot of the magic that he was doing can be rationalized. But in order to do that, let's go back to what I was saying before, is that the Old Testament, you got to take the Old Testament to a T literal. You got to be a literal Larry when you read it. Now, what we recently just learned in Torah study class is that when God flooded the earth, and this is in the fucking book, the water didn't just come from the sky. Some of it came from the sky. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights, yeah. But there's more to the story. You have to read it, though. What the story tells us is that there's underground water reserves that flooded up. Now, yeah, but where's that water today? Well, funny you say that. Funny you ask that question, because just the other day, I was scrolling through a news feed and I found an article, a very recent article, I posted it in the group. A recent article where it said that scientists have just found a giant underwater ocean that's about like maybe 300 miles underneath the Earth's surface. Somewhere between the crust and the mantle, there's an underground ocean that contains more water, 3 times as much water as we have on the surface of the planet. What the fuck? So where did the underground water chutes come from? From right fucking there. There we go. We just fucking explained it. And they didn't mention any of that in the article. They didn't bring up the Bible. But I'm just waiting for the next time I hear somebody say that. Well, it's funny you say that. Where did all the water go? Where did all the water come from? There we go. Huh. Love it. So now, when we move to the New Testament, and mind you, I've only read the first 5 books of the New Testament. I'm not really concerned with anything that comes afterwards yet. Not yet. You have to understand Jesus before you understand what his guys were doing. What they were doing right and what they were doing wrong. So, well, for starters, they attribute it to Jesus. Jesus was just a man. Jesus was physical body. Inside that physical self was the Christ, the Spirit of Christ. That was what was communicating. Jesus wasn't God. Jesus didn't create Adam and Eve. People say that, by the way. Did not. That was God. But God has the very first creation is called Christ. The first thing that it was ever created was God's first son, Christ. Not Jesus. Over time, that soul, that spirit, Christ, takes manifest form. It gets born into a physical body. And over the centuries, over the generations, it evolves through the experiences of the individual that serves as the container, the vessel for that light. A very special soul. It's the most special soul of all the fucking souls. The kingdom that Jesus was talking about creating, he was talking about the future. He was talking 2,000 years in the future. The one that springs up because of the work that he was doing back then. It's gonna be a fucking Jewish. We're moving towards a Jew world order. There's no question about that. Jews don't run the world. God runs the world. That's what's most important to understand. Jews do not run the world. That is a lie. God runs the world. God's the fucking puppet master. There's a gentleman by the name of Beryl Solomon. He gives some good Jewish business advice on YouTube. But he had a little video out the other day. And he goes, listen, don't even worry about it. Because right now, what you're voting for 2 puppets. No matter who wins, God's the one pulling the strings. So don't worry, oh, and mind you, he's talking to Jewish people. Because we get it. Because we get it. Whether you go left or whether you go right, whether you get Trump, whether you get Harris, same thing's gonna happen. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, the Lord is the one who's got all the fucking puppet strings to his fingers. Every single one of us is a fucking finger puppet for God. Some of us are more aware of it than others. Some of us are only capable of being so aware of it than others. Especially today. Because there's rules and protocols that you gotta follow. We had a really good one. We had a really good one today. in Deuteronomy chapter 23. It says, no Israelite woman shall be a cult prostitute, and no Israelite man will be a cult prostitute. Do not use your whore fees and the pay of dogs to pay for any vows that you have towards God, because the Lord looks at that money as abhorrent. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. A cult prostitute. Back then, I'd say that it was pretty much exactly what you would think it is. Prostitutes. Today, a little bit different, but not much. It's a cult. Everything's a cult. Got family cults, got corporate cults. Hugo Boss is a cult. It's a corporate cult. Every single person who works for corporate is a whore, is a prostitute, is a corporate prostitute. They're not selling their dicks and pussies. I don't know. I don't want to say anything's absolute. I don't know what Frank did on his spare time with Kieran. I don't know what Kieran and Mark do on their spare time. I heard that Kieran liked to get his feet rubbed. He liked to pay for ladies to rub his feet. Now, keep your fucking corporate money. Get that shit out of here. We don't need that shit here. Never take charity from somebody who needs charity more than you do. When you work for a corporation, when you're a corporate prostitute, let's go back to what I was saying before. When you're a corporate prostitute, you don't have a mind for yourself. A corporation is just a small religion. Now, mind you, you people, I say you people, like employees, you're like hungry dogs. You'll bounce from company to company to company, whoever's going to pay you $1 more. I know, that's generalizing. Not everyone's going to say that. Some people really like the work environment. Some people really like their coworkers. But let's go for the most part that if the place that Teal's working at now, if they offered you like an extra $5,000 a year, I got a feeling you're out. Extra $5,000 a year plus commission. You'd be out in a fucking second. Because employees, whether you want to admit it or not, you're all opportunists. There ain't nothing wrong with it. Nobody wants to be in that position. Nobody wants to be an employee. Well, I mean, I don't want to say nobody wants to be an employee. People don't want to work. People don't want to work for somebody. That's not work either. It's prostitution. You're getting paid to be treated like a fucking second-class citizen. Every time someone comes into your store and says, "Yeah, go get me," you know what I like. Remember Frank? I remember when Frank came in. He told you. He put you right in your fucking place. You know what I like. Go get it. And what'd you do? You ran like a little fucking whore to go get all those shoes, all those shirts, get them all laid out for Frank. You know exactly what he wants. Same with Christopher. Listen, my brother ain't just because you're the manager doesn't mean shit. You're sucking, as the manager, you're sucking more dick than the fucking associates are. Because he's got to suck off Brian when Brian comes in. Just like Brian's got to suck off his boss. You got to put on the show, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, let's go get my shoes. Have them sent up to my room. The fuck? Why don't you go fucking send them up to your room? A bourgeoisie? Oh. Resurrecting the bourgeoisie spirit, yeah. Well, the thing is about the bourgeoisie and the proletarians, we'll get to them. But those are concepts, those are ideas, those are archetypes. Those are archetypes. Like a bourgeoisie. Yeah, I'm bringing back. That's what I want to do. What industry am I in? I'm in the bourgeoisie industry. Bougie is a motherfucker. Because who is the bourgeoisie? The bourgeoisie. Chris ain't no bourgeoisie. Brian ain't no bourgeoisie. Mark ain't no bourgeoisie. The CEOs. Those are the bourgeoisie. Trump is a bourgeoisie. Elon Musk a bourgeoisie. Archetypally speaking, these are cults of personality. That's what all these fucking places are. These are cults of personality. Don't be a fucking, no Israelite man, no Israelite woman will be a fucking cult prostitute. We will not do what you do. We will not whore ourselves out like you do. Don't be a whore for money. There you go. Don't be a whore for money and expect God to take that dirty those whore fees. I fucking love that. That's the exact wording. Hold on, let me get it. Because I kept it on the page. I kept it on the fucking page too. You're gonna read it? Yeah, of course I'm gonna read it. I'm a good Jew. I always keep my Torah on me. No Israelite woman shall be a cult prostitute, nor shall any Israelite man be a cult prostitute. You shall not bring the fee of a whore or pay of a dog into the house of the Lord in fulfillment of any vow, for both are abhorrent to the Lord your God. So people will actually get offended. People get offended that Jews, we think of you as like animals, like dogs. I saw an interview with this guy who was in Israel. He's asking the Israelites, he's like asking the Jews, he's like, is it true that you guys think non-Jews are animals? Is it true that you got that written in your books? It's true. You're animals, you're dogs. You sell yourself like dogs and whores. So he's thinking like this. He's talking about, what's a whore fee? What's the fee of a whore? Commission. Whores make commission. Dogs make salaries. Is that fucked up? He's so right though. He's so fucking right. Because here's the thing is my God, our God, He demands us to be sovereign. We don't whore ourselves out for money. Derek, why don't you get a job? Because I'm not a fucking whore or a dog. Because I'm a Jew. That's why. Because you're a Jew, you don't have to get a job? No, I work for myself. I have a job. My job I'm a servant of God. And the way He wants me to serve Him is to be my own boss. Now, I can't help it if people aren't throwing money at me. I can't help that. But you know what? It's actually a good thing. Why? Because I don't have to worry about keeping anybody happy. Because that's another big part of being a Jew too. It's like, I'm not responsible for your joy. I'm not responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for your feelings. If you don't like the things that I'm doing, tough shit. Take it up with God. Or you want, I could ask Him, God, Hashem, what do you want me to say to all the people, especially my family? Because I'm going to say that my family probably going to be the people that are going to be in least agreement with what I'm doing. I know they are. My mother's pissed off at me right now because I gave her a little bit of a fucking attitude because she knocked at my door to see if I wanted to go to a restaurant depot with her. Mind you, I'm in the middle of something. Like, listen, it's fine. But nobody has respect for my work. Everybody wants to be respected. Everyone wants to be acknowledged. Oh yeah, you're a hard worker. You're this, you're that. You're doing all the good stuff. Give yourself a pat on the back. Here, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for you. I'm gonna give you a pat on the back by giving myself a pat on the back. Yeah, I'm sorry I had a little bit of a tood. I'm sorry, but I'm like in the middle of something. I'm like in the middle of a fucking heavy thought. It's not your fault. Like, I'm not mad at you. It's just like you asked me a question and you want an immediate response, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to make this work? You see, because nobody has any kind of respect for what I do. So because they have no respect for what I do, they think I just sit around all day just waiting for something to do. No, that's not the case. And I know, well, Derek, all you had to say is, no, I know, that's all I have to say. But at the time, like, I'm used to people wanting an immediate result, an immediate response. And I'm thinking about it, and that's why I said yes. But I'm having a conversation in my head. I'm not fucking directing my aggravation at you. You're taking it that way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me. Because I have part of my brain going, no, I want to stay and don't want to do this. And another part of me going, well, you know what, I could take a fucking break. The only reason I came outside was because she left. I told her I'm going to come. Let me get changed real quick. And she had no patience. She had to leave right that second. And I did have a little bit of a comment. You don't have to go if you don't want. No, it's fine. I'm not doing anything because I'm never doing anything. Because I'm getting fucking tired of people. I'm getting tired of this bullshit. Just because you work 2 days a week and sometimes he might work 2 to 5 days a week, that's your fucking problem. You choose to do this shit. Everybody knows, and if you don't know, you're a fucking bullshit liar. Derek works from fucking home because Derek is always working. No days off. I don't get the luxury. I don't get the luxury of just fucking off in front of the TV, drinking beer, smoking pot. I don't get that. And if I do get to smoke pot and or drink beer, I can work while doing it. I have that kind of flexibility. Ow. Right, so New Testament. You want to take that one, don't take that one literally first. You take the Old Testament first, literally. You take the New Testament figuratively. Then, once you figure out how to make sense out of it figuratively, then you can start taking it literally. Because as long as you can make sense out of it one way, then everything else starts to make sense. But the other important thing is you have to read the Old Testament before you read the New Testament. If you read the New Testament, if you don't read the Old Testament first, it's not going to make any sense. Where's all this witchcraft and voodoo coming from? Like, I don't understand. How is this guy, like, how is this fucking guy making bread and fish appear? The fuck? The hell is he turning water into wine? Like, that doesn't make any sense. No, of course it's not supposed to make sense because he's not doing it. Jesus never did anything. And if you read the goddamn books, if you actually read the books, he even says it himself. When he facilitates a healing. He doesn't heal anyone, he facilitates a healing. When he facilitates, he tells the people, all right, go home. Tell everyone what God did for you. Don't tell anyone that I did it. Tell them that God did it. And that's the exact opposite of what everybody did. Like the people, they would go home, and then they would fucking, oh, dude, guess what fucking Jesus did? He didn't do shit. He didn't do anything. No, I know. No, I just get worked up. Alright, so when we get back, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing with all these videos. Like, I still have 3 that I haven't posted from the group. Like, I uploaded them, I just haven't posted them yet. I've been so like caught up with the books that I'm working on. I'm so caught up with the books that we're working through that I'm like, I'm not prioritizing it. Which I mean, realistically, like, do I need to? You're not reading. You're not watching them. You're not watching them. So it's like it's not like there's like a huge rush. But maybe I'll try to do that tonight. To bang a couple of them out. Because you gotta understand, like when I post them, I'm writing too. So, motherfucker, it's goddamn late. So. So when I post them, like, and I end up writing for like a half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, I'm trying to get into the habit of posting the times with it too, which I'm getting annoyed because I want to do the start time and the end time. I'm working on it though. Like I'm getting the start time. That's not a problem. It's just once I get to the end, it's like once everything's out of me, like an hour's gone by and I'm not even thinking about it until I hit post and it's like, fuck, I missed it. Because I'm doing it to the minute. That's why. It's not like, it's around 9 o'clock. No, it's 7:56. Time is it? $7:58. I think yeah, sunset. So we're in the 13th hour. So the 13th hour starts at sunset. And what time's it at? So 4:50. So 4:50. 4:50 is sunset. 16:50. So just before 5 o'clock. And we're gonna get. It's gonna. So every day for the next month and a half, we're gonna lose about a minute a day. We're going to lose a minute a day up until around the 10th of December. The 10th of December, maybe the 11th or 12th of December. Because at that point, the sun's going to be in a position that it's going to be at its lowest point. Well, the winter solstice is out on the 20th of December, about the 21st, 20th, 21st. But for about... then like a range of like 5 to 10 days before and 5 to 10 days after, we stop losing time. We stop losing time. This is the same thing that happens. It happens every solstice and every equinox. Like when you get around, like I said, like let's estimate it, probably like seven days, about a week before and a week after. Like we stop losing time and it stabilizes just for a very brief period of time, just for about 2 weeks, like I said. And then about a week after the solstice, which is going to be on December, so maybe a couple days after Christmas, we'll start to notice that we gain 1 hour of daylight every day. And that's going to continue until the equinox, right? When we get to the equinox, it's going to be another week before, week after, where things are going to stabilize just for that like that brief 2 week period. And that's when it's going to be 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night exactly. And then that following week, we'll start gaining another minute or two, another minute per day until the week before the summer solstice. It's a fascinating system. If you pay attention to how it works, because it's all based on the natural cycles. So if you watch how it works, it's literally like clockwork. It's perfect. Like we don't need to do the systems that we have in place right now, like UTC, like Universal Time. Like we don't need that. We don't need it. It's not sufficient. Because what happens is, on the system that I'm using, the actual literal system that God set for us, 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night, every single day, the hours fluctuate. So as we lose 1 hour of daylight every single day, we lose 1 minute of daylight every single day, we gain 1 minute of night. So it stays balanced. It's just that on the equinoxes, a daytime hour is 60 minutes. On the winter solstice, a daytime hour is 45 minutes. And at the summer solstice, a daytime hour is 75 minutes. So it fluctuates between that range, a range of 30 minutes. But it self-corrects itself. That's what makes the system perfect. So you can work an 8-hour shift on the 12 and 12 system. It's called relative time. The length of an hour is relative to the time of the year, relative to the season. So you can work an 8-hour shift. It's just that each hour is going to be 45 minutes. But that'll make up for itself in the springtime, in the spring and summertime, because you'll be working more. Well, you'll be working the same amount of time. But the length of an hour increases. So in the summer, but in either way, you work an 8-hour shift. You're home before dark. Because right now, we're in the 13th hour. What that means is that there's been 13 hours, 12 full hours since sunrise. So but that's if we want to accommodate for the mental and emotional and physical states of the employees. Oh my God. Smells like magic. But we're home. 2 hours? Not bad. I do want to get back to the Communist Manifesto. So I think that's going to be my priority right away. So that's it. Thank you, Shin.